Alright, so today we're going to play the urban game, and what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to take a big sheet of paper, like an 11 by 17 sheet of paper that looks a little bit like this, as big as you can get it. And what I want you guys to do is I just want you to draw along. As we're going along, you can pause on certain points if you need to draw things, but here's the rule you have to follow. As we're creating this city, okay, we're going to watch the development of cities through the Industrial Revolution. And as we're creating this city, you cannot erase anything except trees. Alright, so keep that in mind. You're going to have to build a city on an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. Okay, and I don't want you to make things tiny just to make them tiny. But what I want you to do is I want you to create what you think they would be, you know, realistically to scale, all that good stuff. But the only thing you can erase, unless I tell you otherwise, are trees. Okay? So, there's the task. Now let's go experience the development of cities as a result of the Industrial Revolution. Let's go! So for the most part, I'm gonna just read things to you, and you can pause it as we go. But I'm pretty much just gonna straight up read these PowerPoint slides to you, and we're gonna go through it, and I'll add some a little bit of changes to them as well. So life here in England is pretty similar to how it is in the rest of Europe in the 18th century. That's 1700. Change really comes very slowly, or traditionally comes very slowly. People had a very slow pace to life. Information really doesn't come to them from the outside world. London is England's largest city and only one of two real cities, Paris being the other one, in Europe. And its population is only at about 750,000 people in 1750. 3 out of every 4 people, so that 75% of Englishmen were rural and lived in small villages like the one that you're about to draw. Okay, the average village had about 200 to 400 people. The tallest structure in town was the church. The religion is Anglican, or the Church of England. Home life and work life are really closely integrated together, and most work is either done in nearby fields or in the home, or perhaps maybe you had a workshop right next to your house. Family was an economical unit as well as a social unit. Everybody in the family had to work really hard from sun up to sundown. Small children even had chores. The homes of villagers were very small. They had earth floors. They had very little lighting and very little ventilation. Pretty nasty places. All members of the family, everybody slept in the same room, and sometimes they even had the same living quarters with their livestock. Sons worked with their fathers, farming, tending their livestock, while their daughters worked with their mother, cleaning, cooking, sewing, doing other domestic things inside the home. Life expectancy was a little bit over 40 years of age. Most people married in their teens, had their babies in their 20s. It was actually very common for women to die in childbirth. So the average marriage really only lasted about 15 years. Stepmothers and stepfathers were really common because life expectancy was not very long. And 1 baby out of 3 typically died before their first birthday. So if you think about it, the death rate was about 333 out of 1,000. That's pretty high, considering the death rate right now, babies out of 1,000 is in the United States and England is right around 7 or 8 at the highest. So 1 child in 2, so only 50% of our population would have seen life before, or I'm sorry, live past their 21st birthday. So on your notes pages or just on any sheet of paper, here's what I want you to think about. 5 words to describe life in 18th century England before the Industrial Revolution. Why'd you pick those words? And lastly but not leastly, here's what I want you to draw. A river east to west, kind of put it in the middle of your page. A wooden bridge, just draw a bridge based on the symbol I gave you and write wood on it. 4 roads, 10 houses, 1 church, a cemetery, a pub, 1 coal mine, a store, and draw lots of trees. So, unlike France, the English class structure is not really divided strictly into social legal estate. There was a distinctive class system, but it was not based on the legal estate. Most Englishmen were poor farmers. There were a few who were middle class, like the bourgeoisie in France, but most of them lived in cities. They lived, for the most part, like I said, in London. Still, there were a few aristocrats, the landed nobility, who owned land and were of noble birth. And they usually were the ones that owned the large tracts of land in the English countryside. For both peasant and aristocrats, soil, land was the key to the economy. Land was the source of their livelihood and their well-being. Having enough land to produce adequate food or to produce enough to sell or rent was the key to their survival. So think about this. How is it English society different from the French? How is it similar? So let's move on a little bit. Okay? What I want you to think about here, I'm going to give you a second to read it, so read it. So pause right now. Now what I want to talk about is how right now we're looking at the essence of the family life, and we're going to look at later how family life changes as a result of the Industrial Revolution. So everything is tied to marriage. Everything is tied to that land. Women go with their land. They have to bring something with them into the marriage, otherwise they're not married. Men have to wait until their 30s to get married, and if their life expectancy is not until 40, think about how that affects things. All right? The eldest son was the only one who inherited property if you did have any property. And so those second sons just kind of had to wait for their brothers to die. Or if their brother didn't die, a lot of them sometimes went into the church or went on and did other things. So answer these questions and think about this as you go. How did land dictate family life? What role did it play? And why do you think it was so important? So let's go on. All right, now let's talk about some other things. I'm going to let you pause to read. So all of this farming is done publicly. Okay, all of it is done publicly. Basically, people just go and farm land called the commons that everyone has pretty much equal access to. Poor farmers didn't own land; they had to rely on the commons. So, unlike France, most English peasants did own their own land. Not all of them, but they did have a little bit of land. So let's think about what was the commons. Now let's talk about this. They were connected by roads, dirt roads that were really bad in the rainy season. And so what I want you to think about as you read this section here, I'll shut up for a second. Okay, what I want you to think about here as you read this, as you pause this and read this, is that people did everything on their own. Occasionally, the peddler would come by, but in the winter, you were stuck in your own little village that whole time. Think about how that would impact life. How did the roads hurt trade and industry? Think about roads and travel. And lastly, for fuel, they had firewood and coal. Everybody had a mining operation, a coal mining. Coal was abundant in England. It was close to the surface, so it really wasn't very difficult to get at comparatively. And whoever owned the property where the coal was found, they got extremely rich because you had to pay them, and they took the right for that. So what are they using that for? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about now the year is 1745. England is unique in that no section of the country is more than 90 miles from the sea. Lots of navigable rivers. But you, as a young industrial capitalist, said, you know what, or soon-to-be industrial capitalist, said, I'm going to invest some money in a canal. And you built a canal. The payback is tremendous one. One canal in 1745, as you can read there, got 300% annual return for its investment for 30 years. Now it reduced the price of transportation, which reduced the price of raw materials, and reduced generally all prices, and so people paid for these canals, and you can make a lot of money from them. Coal is now transported from the mines to the towns for about half the price as it used to cost. Since you're the one that got to do it, add one nice house to your village and a canal parallel to your river. Remember, don't erase until I tell you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to read all this to you. What I'm going to do is pop the text up. You can pause it, read it on your own, but I am going to talk about it a little bit, so you can't just skip around. So what I do want to talk about right now is 1750, sanitation improves, your population explodes. And because your population explodes, you get to add 5 houses. By the way, you're dumping your poop in the canal. It's taking everything away for you. So now, time moves on, 1760. The important thing you need to get out of 1760 as you read this is the Enclosure Acts. These Enclosure Acts were great for Parliament. They were great for landowners because landowners could buy land. But the problem is now people who farm the commons had no land to farm, and they couldn't have a way to make a living. Another important impact around the year 1760 was the second agricultural revolution, the introduction of horse-drawn cultivator, the seed drill, crop rotation, fertilizer, all that stuff is dramatic. So guess what? Boom! take away half your commons. Just erase it. That's the only thing you can erase. Erase it. And add one more nice big house for the guy that was able to buy all the commons. He's wealthy. Alright? So, here comes next. Here's my man Richard Arkwright. He invents the flying shuttle, or I'm sorry, the water frame. He's able to make fabric now using water as his power. So guess what? You get to add a factory. But it's got to be on the river. Don't put it anywhere else. It's got to be on the river. He's got to have the water to power it. But you get to add one factory along the river. Don't put the smokestack on it, though. Do not do that just quite yet. 1774. We're moving on in time. Workers need to work at this new factory. So since people can't compete with spinning, etc., they're out of jobs. So poor families need, darn it, I got to get a job. So then they go to because of the Enclosure Acts, they don't have a way to make a living. So now there's lots of people who need work. Guess what? Boom, they come to your factory, but they got to have places to live. Add 5 more houses, a church, a pub, and a store. Oh, you can also draw some more roads and a bridge if you need it. 3 years later, 1777, all the profits are huge. Richard Arkwright becomes known as the father of the factory. He becomes known as the first millionaire. This is great. He also takes on the title of, where is it at? Capitalist. Now, workers are getting paid a fixed wage, and he's making a ton of money. 5 more factories. Lots of people think, hey, this is a way to make some money. Because it is. Lots of people are unemployed. People are poor. People are moving into your town in 1780. But all these families are getting paid not a whole lot. So they build for the first time something called tenements. Basically apartment building. They look like crap. They're small. The conditions are bad. But hey, at least it's a roof over your head. Add 5 of them. Coming up next in 1781, 1 year later, all these people got to have a place to live and eat and all this other stuff. Some people are wealthy enough to send their kids, well, just their boys, because nobody wants to educate the girls quite yet, to send their kids to school. So add the following. Now, these workers are working their tails off. The average day is 6 to 9 p.m. 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with about a 30-minute lunch break. I want you to think about what your life would be like if that was what you did. That'd stress you out, right? Yeah, it would. Alcohol begins to be consumed because people just want to relax after a day's work. Add some more pubs. And on we go, the trek of modern progress. People can barely make out an existence because they're not paying them a month. Children can go to school if they can afford it. Some of these wealthy people, though, have really nice lifestyles, and they are called the nouveau riche, is what they're called. They have all this stuff. If you ever watch Downton Abbey, I think this is what the people in Downton Abbey are about. They're that wealthy middle class of the nouveau rich. Add some stuff for them. Now, this nouveau rich gets even better. A guy named James Watt, a Scotsman. He says, you know what? I've got an idea for you. I'm going to invent something called the steam engine. He said that beforehand. Yeah, he did. Not so much. Okay, first of all, it replaced the water frame. You did not have to be on the river. Okay, so one, it was far more efficient. You had lots of coal. You could fire it up with a steam engine. Use the coal to fire the steam engine. Bam! You can move your factory anywhere. Capitalists said, hey, this is the way to go. This is what we're going to do. Add 10 factories. Wow! Your factories are booming now. Put smoke on them. Put smoke on all your other ones, too. And one more nice house, because people keep getting rich. Time moves on. 1800, there's this guy named Henry Court. Henry Court makes it possible to use coal. All right? Says this process makes it possible for coal to be used as the main fuel in making iron, which later becomes steel. Heavy industry hits England. At a new coal mine. Oh! And a new iron bridge to replace the old wooden one. Just write iron. The time marches on. It is now 1850. Coal miners are busy mining coal, working in the coal mine. I don't know the name of the song, but that's what they do. Anyway, so the problem here is now children are being employed. 8 to 14-year-old kids are working in there and they're dying. It's dangerous. They get black lung. These are kids. Casualty rates go up. Draw a cemetery for all the dead people. Moving on. 1820. Canals. Dirt roads can't accommodate the heavy industry. So experiments are made, and they figure out, steam engine. I put it on rails. I take these new iron things, and I make rails on it. Put the steam engine on wheels, put the wheels on this thing, put a cart behind the steam engine, and bam, you get the first train. It's called the Rocket in England. I think it moves something like 20 miles an hour. People thought they were flying when they rode it. And a major railroad line connecting your factories to your coal mines. 1827, this new revolution in transportation draws lots of people to your area. Your town is a boom. Everybody's coming there. Poor people, rich people, everybody, middle class, everybody's coming. The problem is that more and more children and women are working. The men are ashamed because their wives are the ones that are breadwinner. The family unit begins to break down. Nobody's eating or drinking together. Nobody's sitting together as a family. Men are angry. You've got to add a jail and 2 pubs because these guys are drinking and they're going to jail. 1838, conditions continue to get worse. All right, textile and iron or steel later. That's the misspelling of the word steel. I just noticed that. Oh! Working conditions were very bad. Women would get their hair caught in it. Children couldn't sleep. You can read that. It was really bad. So, but on the bright side, hey, somebody dies, we'll just get somebody else. Because if you didn't work, you didn't make money. If you were too hurt, it didn't matter to the capitalists. They wanted money. 2 hospitals and 1 cemetery. 1840, more transportation. Give it to us. Give it to us. We need some stuff. Give it to us. Give it to us. Give us stuff. Now, they need railroads. But you got all these people. Well, fortunately for England, the Irish potato famine had just hit. So, hey, you got a lot of people who can make your railroads. Here come the Irish. Force cheap, a good source of cheap, inexpensive labor at a railroad line. Time marches on. 1842. Urban life is good for some folks. These middle class can afford all kinds of nice stuff. So let's give them some nice stuff. 2 theaters, 2 private schools because they don't want their kids going to school with the regular ones because, well, the regular ones are busy working in the factories. Time marches on. Pollution is nasty. There are no pollution controls. Your city is brown and black and dirty. Tumors start to grow on people. Cancer is used for the first time. Life expectancy drops to 30 years old. That's not good. Life expectancy drops. The noises, privacy, everything has changed. Suicide rates double and then triple. Oh, not good. Add some help for them. Give them a cemetery, a jail, and a hospital. By 1850, all the good land is gone. It's been enclosed or sold to private people. England's poor are poor. England's poor are poor. That's radical. Okay? The small-time farmer is crushed. Go agribusiness. Wealthy landowners are the ones farming. They can't compete with the machinery. So by the thousands, people don't live in the countryside. They're all moving to your town, your city. Here they come. You got to add some space for them. 20 houses, 5 tenements, 2 stores, a church, 5 factories, and a pub, and 1 more nice big house. All right, now that we've drawn that old city, now it's your turn. What I want you to do is you get to design on the back of that big sheet of paper your own city to meet these specifications. Once you are done with this city, okay, once you're done with this city, I want you to take a sheet of paper that'll look something like this, okay, and I want you to write out, how is that city different from the one that we drew just now? Okay, compare the 2 cities. What makes them different? Why are they different? Describe them. Explain why they're so different and so radically changed. Think about how did the development and the speed of urbanization during the Industrial Revolution affect the development of cities? Oh, by the way, bye-bye.